Star Academy is a piano school that is read on the iPad. If you have a piano that can hold a MacBook on its music desk, that's also an option. The book cannot be printed as it is, since most of the book's 112 exercise pages have image galleries with several music examples. A complete printout would generate over 1,000 pages. However, members of the Star Academy Patreon have access to PDF files of all exercises for printing. The book itself can be downloaded for free inside Apple's Books app. Search for Star Academy to find it, or see the links in the description. The book consists of 7 chapters that each builds skills in its subject from the ground up. In Chapter 1 you learn the names of the piano keys, the function of the pedals, note values and note height or pitch, note reading, and ways to see the patterns and intervals in music. In Chapter 2 you learn about hand position, finger exercises, different ways of practicing, different articulation and accompaniment figures that are recurring in classical repertoire. In Chapter 3 and 4 you learn major and minor scales, first one hand at a time, 1 octave at a time, then both hands in 2 octaves, then 4 octaves, and lastly you get to practice short snippets of repertoire where the scales are in focus. In Chapter 5 you learn to play chords, first triads, then inversions of triads and 4-note chords, then a chord progression, and lastly inversions and 2-5-1s of 7th chords. In Chapter 6 you learn arpeggios, first simple triads, then inversions of triads and 4-note chords, and finally long arpeggios. In Chapter 7 there are 4 levels of repertoire. Level 1 contains easy arrangements of famous orchestra works: Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, Tchaikovsky's Swan Lake, and Grieg's Morning Mood and In the Hall of the Mountain King. In Level 1, members have access to play-along videos and links to recordings with the orchestra for inspiration, and also PDFs of the arrangements. In Level 2, you start playing real piano repertoire with pieces from Bach's Small Preludes, Beethoven's Echosaces, Chopin's Preludes, and Tchaikovsky's Children's Album. In Level 3, each part contains 6 pieces from the 4 main eras of classical music: the Baroque era, Classical era, Romantic era, and Late Romantic era Impressionism. In Level 4, the task is to prepare 1 piece from each era, matching an application to a music conservatory. In Levels 2 to 4, members have access to PDFs of sheet music for all repertoire, and also to links to video recordings of all repertoire for inspiration and knowledge of some of the biggest piano stars of the last century up until today. To get the most out of the book, I highly recommend using the curriculum, the Star Map. With the Star Map, you're guided through the book's 112 exercise pages according to a thought-out plan, where each exercise gives you skills to use in the next exercise. The Star Map is also where the student keeps track of their progress. Each exercise in the book is created as a challenge, where the student is supposed to master the exercise in 6 different tempos, which all rewards the student with a star when finished. For example, when the student manages to play the first 6 major scales with a metronome set to 50 BPM, they get the first star. To get the second star, the student needs to complete the same exercise in 60 BPM. The small increments in tempo teaches the student the art of repetition, and the metronome beat makes them focused and also teaches them to play rhythmically. In my teaching, I have noticed that when the student play wrong notes, they start concentrating even more because they want to complete the level, and the practicing becomes a lot of fun. When I notice that the student have reached a tempo that they have trouble mastering, we move on to the next exercise in the Star Map. When the student returns the next lesson, they reach higher tempos than the week before, and eventually they get the last big 6th star. During the lessons, my focus is always on the student succeeding in the challenges, especially the first star. If the given BPM is too fast for a student, we start with a lower BPM or we go half speed. If it's too slow, we aim for the 5th or 6th star right away or go double tempo. The important thing is to find a stable ground to systematically build upon. Often I let the student decide when to move on to the next exercise. The star map consists of 4 levels, each containing 4 pages. In my class, the student needs to collect all 6 stars in all exercises in page 1 before moving on to the next page. We always practice several exercises in parallel. In this way, the student is constantly evolving in scales, chords, arpeggios, and repertoire throughout the whole course. As we do the exercises during the lesson, I, as a teacher, comment on hand position, wrist movement, musical tips, and such. In the end of the lesson, we mark the exercises that should be practiced at home. The first page of the star map can be tried for free in chapter 8 of the book. To access the whole star map, both as PDF for printing and the digital version for Mac, you need to become a member in the Star Academy Patreon. Membership costs $6.50 per month. As a member, you will get access to the member pages that are reached through the play button on each exercise page. There you can watch videos of the exercises to enhance learning. You also get access to PDF files of the exercises for printing to paper or opening on the iPad with less swiping as a result. To create motivation and routine in the student's home practice, I have made a logbook paper that we tape into the student's piano binder. There, me and the student agree on the absolute minimum time they believe that they can practice each day. We write that number down, and then the students write down how much they actually practiced every day. This paper and other things like printable flashcards and memory games for learning notes are also available for members. There is also a PDF with stars that I personally print on self-adhesive paper and punch out with a 19mm punch for the big stars and a 6.3mm punch for the small stars. In this way I get stickers to put in the student's star map. Lastly, I will show how to navigate through the book. In the star map, each exercise has a code. Star 311 corresponds to Chapter 3, Section 1, Part 1. To get there, you click on Chapter 3 or on the arrow, then on the first section and then Part 1. You can always double check with the code in the bottom right. To go back to the section page, you click on the section name. To get back to the chapter page, you click on the chapter name. To get back to the start, you click on Table of Contents. You can also swipe or click on the sides of the screen to change page. Sometimes the Apple Books app navigation pops up. To make it disappear, you need to click on a surface that is not an image gallery or a link. I always click on the stars in the bottom. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out through Patreon or email.